probably the most practical and safe for a runner is to do what's called a mid stance, which your feet are outside of hip distance and you want to point the toes out a bit. I'm talking about a 25-degree angle if you're thinking straight on, so about 25 degrees out. Important to have an open and upright chest and to lead the movement with your hips. That means it is as if you are sitting back into a chair, my chest stays upright, the hips lead the motion, and you only go down to about knee level. See how my knees are also tracking over the toes. Then you have to consciously activate the glutes as you come to a stand. Again, this can be done. Plate or weight here at your chest, or if you are in a weight room or you have your own equipment at the house with a bar on your back. Mid stance, 100 reps. Not kidding. You could break these up into maybe 4 sets of 25 with a couple of breaks, but we're talking endurance and low weight here.
I have one quick interjection that I might ask. If somebody maybe somebody is used to doing like a strength routine where they do 5 times 5 reps, but it's very heavy weight. Would you suggest maybe a structure where they could build up to? So maybe they're not used to going above 10 reps. Would doing 10 by 10 be fine, just looking for overall volume? Or would you suggest maybe doing 5 by 20, 4 by 25? What's maybe something if somebody's used to lower reps, higher weight, what's an easier way to start to transition maybe over a couple weeks?
You could absolutely modify that program. Again, kind of thinking about 10%. So taking off 10% of the weight and adding 10% of the reps at a time. Doesn't sound like a lot, and it's a slow progression, but honestly, it also depends on just how you feel. You could see if you are getting the same range, if you can stay at a very consistent pace and not compromise your range, see how many reps you could get with maybe half the weight.
Right.
Take a nice break and then work your way up. However many you get in a set, then just continue to take those work rest intervals until you get to 100 reps. All right, next is probably the trickiest that I don't want to make any assumptions, but from what I see is an exercise not typically done properly. This is the lunge. The lunge is a fabulous exercise to target the medial glute. So again, we're talking about knee tracking here. It's one of the hip stabilizers. Best thing to do is to actually come down into a 90-90 position. What does that mean? That means that the front leg, your knee is at 90 degrees. The back leg is on the ground, knee at 90 degrees. You tuck the back toe under and lift up. That is the length between your feet. And most people don't have this length. At this length, it would be literally impossible for me to drop my heel down in the back. That's how you know you are in a safe position. The lunge is led with the back leg knee until the front knee goes to 90 degrees. This does not mean this knee touches the ground. In this position, I should be able to see my toes and the front knee is stacked over the ankle. You lift up by driving through the front heel and activating the back glute. If you have a weight, the weight goes in the hand of the leg that's going back. That's going to maximize the glute med activity on that. So this is both legs though. As I lower down, drive up through the front heel, I'm actually getting some hamstring here, glute here, and the quads are firing actually in both directions. So it's a win-win altogether.
Awesome. And how many reps would you do for that one? Is it the same sort of volume that you'd be looking for?
Same, 50 on each side.
50 on each side. Awesome. Yeah. And then could you show that setting up positioning just one more time, maybe with a little bit of instruction, just say, maybe here's this cue, here's that cue, just the progression towards getting in the right position?
Absolutely. Let's go over it again. This doesn't have to be done every time. but in the beginning, it really helps. A couple of additions. So you set yourself a 90-90, front knee 90 degrees, back leg 90 degrees, and your front foot is hip distance away from the back knee. So you're actually hip distance apart if you're looking from that angle. You tuck the back toe under, press up through the front heel, and there's your start position. In this location, you could then grab the weight as you're lifting up. Then you drop the back knee down until the front knee is at 90 degrees. Push through that front heel and drive up. Another thing, once you're down in this position, if you have two small weights or two blocks or two of anything, you could put one at the front toe and one at the back toe, just so you were aware of what that length is if you were doing multiple sets, so you didn't always have to come into this set position. This is just a great way if you're starting to want to do a lunge properly, that you would get into position.
And then you mentioned, when you press up through, as you're in that position now, like your left heel, you're pressing up through that. And you mentioned, your quad is firing on the way up, and like your glute on the right-hand side might be firing as well. Is there any sort of cues that people should pay attention to? Should it feel like a very quick movement? Should you take it like slow at first and feel the muscles sort of activating in turn, or what would be the recommendations there?
In terms of speed for all of these, you always want it to be in control and maximize the range. That means, in terms of range, you want to make sure that this front knee gets to 90 degrees and the front thigh is parallel to the ground before you start to drive up. And everything should just be very smooth and controlled. I'm actually not as worried about pace here. If you were doing a strength workout that you wanted to be more of endurance and speed, you could do that with lighter weights. But for the most part, it's just being in control and maximizing the range. So I'm not as picky about the speed. That can be much more individual.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And then number 3?
The third. All right, I'm going to bring a prop into this. This is not required, but this is just a resistance band with handles. There are resistance bands that you can get and that are just a piece of elastic, and you could simply take one of those and wrap it around your hands. But there are two options that I want to show you, even though it's kind of targeting the same thing, one with equipment and one without. The first one I'll show you is with the tube. If you've got any sort of resistance band or tube, all you're going to do is step into it, and this does need to be done with shoes. Cross the handles or cross the band if you're just using the elastic without handles, and then lift it up to your hips. The exercise from here to isolate the glute med is very simple. You're going to sink down into just a very small angle squat so the weight is in your heels, and take the leg out and in. And you try to keep your upper body very still. This is one of the best isolation exercises for the muscles of the lateral hip. If you don't have any equipment, then I recommend a shallow single leg squat in a different position than you may have seen it. For this, you're just going to put one leg in the front. The opposite leg is just a gentle toe down in the back, and you literally shift your torso to be in a shallow diagonal line in front of you and lift the back leg off the ground and do a single leg squat. This looks very simple. It gets extremely intense by about rep 10. You are not only helping with knee stability by training the fibers right by the patella, but all of the stability and balance is isolated here on the outside and inner hip. So it is fabulous option if you don't have equipment. That would be my third exercise for you.
Awesome. And then the same sort of thing there with its 50 on each side for a combined total of 100 reps.
Correct. Correct.
And then
and I can't do 50 single leg squats in one set.
Mhm.
So I have been doing this now for over 10 years and I still can't get. I have to take at least one break. I can sometimes get a very quality 40, but it's pushing my limit once I get past 25.
Awesome. I guess two questions I'd have for this one is if somebody did want to get the prop that you were using, what is that type of band, or would you have a recommendation for using that if somebody feels more comfortable maybe having sort of like that device that they can kind of interact with?
Yeah, the handles are nice. This happens to be a Les Mills, and I'm going to talk about where you can find some online classes that are going to have all of these exercises in one 30-minute class. This is a Les Mills, it's called CX Works, CXWORX. That's the class type, and you can find these on their website. They're under $20. You could also just look up resistance band with handles on Google. The only thing I want to warn you about is some of these resistance bands have a fabric around the elastic. You don't want that. So you just want the actual elastic. You can also buy for literally $2 a piece is just a strip of elastic. And it's very thin and there's multiple different densities and stiffnesses, and you can start kind of on the lighter one and then build up.
Awesome. And then the number two thing, if somebody is doing the approach without the prop and they're looking for some sort of positioning cues for that single leg squat, you mentioned the toe like very gently touching the ground, like for the back foot. Does it help to do things in front of a mirror to get the positioning down for this exercise as well?
It does. And my suggestion is actually to use your phone and video yourself. That's the best way for beginning exercisers to actually see what they're doing. I think the mirror is helpful. In my apartment here in New York, I don't even have a mirror. So I oftentimes, when I'm trying exercises, trialing them for clients, I'll just video myself and get different views of it. But because everybody has a different style of learning, some people need to see themselves doing it, they need to feel it, other people can just watch others, other people need to hear the cues. So that's why I think some of these online videos are really helpful. And then tape yourself and you can do a little compare and contrast.